Hello, welcome once again to Leto's Law. I'm Steve Leto. Today we're talking about a topic that confuses a lot of people, and a lot of the inspiration I get for topics comes from repeated comments on my videos. That is, if people keep commenting on something that indicates a large level of confusion, I will do a video about it in an attempt to straighten it out. I know that in many respects, it's not going to do anything, but at least I can try. So I've done videos about Walmart greeters or people at Costco or Sam's Club who are at the door, and as you walk out, they ask to see your receipt at some stores. Now, I've done videos on that, not talking about that today, but I've had a lot of people in response to those videos say, well, Steve, they can't accuse you of shoplifting until you've left the building. And that's not true. And I've had people say, well, Steve, they can't accuse you of shoplifting until you've passed the cash registers. And I go, oh, that's not true either. And for some odd reason, people have got these ideas in their heads, and it's an old wives' tale, I guess. The idea that there's a building and there's stuff in it for sale, and you can walk into the building and walk around, do anything you want in there, so long as you don't pass the cash registers, you're okay. That's not true. That's simply not true. And so what I'm getting at is there are several things that can cause you to run afoul of shoplifting laws, and some of them are things that can happen to you in the store. And the problem is, of course, that most people who aren't shoplifters don't think like shoplifters. So when they encounter a security person at a store who says, "Can I see your receipt?" they get all offended because they're not a shoplifter, or they at least claim they're not. And they act like, "What? Why is this happening to me? This is so unfair. It's so un-American. America." And the problem, of course, is that you're not looking at it from a shoplifter's point of view, but you're also not looking at it from the shopkeeper's point of view. The people who own the store, okay? And it could be a corporation, it could be a mom and pop, it doesn't matter. The people who own the store have got rights also, okay? So you as a shopper have some rights. They as shop owners have rights also. And don't even go there with the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. People keep telling me that, by the way, Steve, they can't look at my receipt because it's a violation of my constitutional rights. It's not. But I could do a whole video on that, and I might one of these days. But what I'm getting at, probably the easiest thing I can show you is that if you are in a store, I'll give you an example. I go into a store, okay? I'm just John Q. Public. I go into a store. It's a big, big grocery store. And I shop at several. So I'll give you an example. Meijer is a grocery store in the Midwest. Huge. So I go in there and I look around. No one's looking. And I grab a thing of expensive steak and I stuff it down the front of my pants. I look around some more, pretty certain nobody saw me. And I start walking and I'm still at the back of the store. And a security guard walks over and says, "Excuse me, sir. We saw you stuff those things down your pants." I say, "I've got nothing down my pants." And they go, "Well, we beg to differ. We have videotape of it. See those things on the ceiling? Those are video cameras." And I look up and realize, oh, there's these weird little black domes up there. What are those? Oh, they're video cameras. So they have video of me stuffing these things down my pants. Now, I'm 100 yards from the cash registers. I'm 110 yards from the front doors. I am as in that building as you can be, short of climbing into the meat locker itself. They can stop me at that moment in time. They can detain me, and they can call the police, and I will be arrested, and I can be prosecuted and convicted on those facts alone. And you'd say, "But Steve, you haven't walked past the cash registers yet. You haven't walked out the front door. You haven't even attempted to steal anything yet. All you've done is put some meat down your pants." So I'm going to give you examples from around this great nation of ours. As you know, we have 50 states. We've also got some other things out there. We won't get into that. But we have 50 states. And each state often has its own laws. Many of these laws are parallel. I can't give you all 50 states. I've actually had someone say, "Steve, in that case, list all 50 states." No, but I'll list you a smattering of states, and I'll explain to you how to look this up in your own state. Colorado. Wonderful state. Been there many times. Colorado. Title 18, Article 4, Part 4. And apparently it's Section 18-4-406, Concealment of Goods. See, I didn't run the stuff out the front door. I stuffed it down my pants. If any person willfully conceals unpurchased goods, wares, or merchandise owned or held by and offered or displayed for sale by any store or other mercantile establishment, whether the concealment be on his own person or otherwise, and whether on or off the premises of said store or mercantile establishment, such concealment constitutes prima facie evidence that the person intended to commit the crime of theft. And this is in the section that Colorado has on shoplifting. Okay? In case you're wondering, prima facie means at first glance, but it's a legal term meaning that that is enough evidence to convict you. If that's all they have, that's enough to get you arrested, and it's enough to get you convicted. You can defend the case. You can argue all you want about how you had to put those stakes down your pants for some other reason. And if a jury buys it, they could let you walk. But the point is that that's enough for them to detain you, have you arrested, and have you prosecuted and get you convicted in Colorado. So notice a few other things, though. You've concealed unpurchased goods, wares, or merchandise, and the concealment can be on your person or otherwise. So let's suppose you've got a shopping cart. You go inside the store. It's winter outside, but it's warm inside. It's Michigan in April. So you take your coat off and you lay your coat on the shopping cart. And as you're walking around the store, you realize that you don't see any security guards. And you see some small, expensive items. And you stick them in the pocket of your coat. Now, you're not wearing the coat. The coat's on the shopping cart. It's on the little front basket where you'd put a child if you owned one. And so you stuff something in the pocket of that coat. And you fold the coat up and put the coat there. You're still in the building. But if a security person saw you do that, and drew the conclusion that it appeared that you were doing that to hide stuff in the coat, hoping to steal it, because you just as easily could have put the stuff in the basket, detain you, hold you, have you arrested, have you prosecuted, you can be convicted. Okay? Just letting you know. Article 4 of Title 18, that's Part 4, Concealment of Goods, from the Colorado Revised Statutes. Colorado being one of 50 states in this great nation of ours. Oh, Arizona. Arizona Section 13-1805, shoplifting. This one we're actually going to call it shoplifting. And it says, and there's a subsection, detaining suspect, defense to wrongful conviction, detention, civil action by merchant, public services classification. A person commits shoplifting if, while in an establishment which merchandise is displayed for sale, the person knowingly obtains such goods of another with the intent to deprive that person of such goods by concealment. That's it, right there. I even conveniently circled it. Concealment. So you concealed it. Doesn't say after walking past registers. Doesn't say after walking through the front doors. Doesn't say after failing to pay. Boom. It says concealment, period. That's a pretty short sentence. And by the way, this statute's got some more clarification in it for you, just in case you want to argue with me. A person is presumed to have the necessary culpable mental state pursuant to subsection A of this section if the person does either of the following. 1, knowingly conceals on himself or another person unpurchased merchandise of any mercantile establishment while within the mercantile establishment. They're specifically saying this does apply to people within the building. If you're in the building and you did it. You might say, Steve, what about this other person? You can imagine that you could have two people working in tandem. You stand in front of me, and while I stand guard and cover you, you stuff the meat down your pants. Or I stuff the meat down your pants. Or I've got a child. I stuff the meat down their jacket. And I'm hoping that if the kid gets caught, who's going to arrest the little kid? Well, you arrest the parent who's using the little kid as a device in this shoplifting scheme of concealment. And so notice that it says a person is presumed, and you need to know what a presumption is. And a presumption is something that the court will put into place that you have to overcome to rebut. So a person is presumed to have the necessary culpable mental state, meaning they don't have to prove your mental state. If you concealed it, that creates the mental state. You can try to argue against it and explain why you put the meat down your pants, or why you put the meat in the other person's pants, or why you put the meat down the jacket of the child. You can if you want to. And if a judge and a jury buys it, then maybe you'll win. But the presumption is that you were shoplifting when you concealed the goods while it's still in the store. And by the way, quite a few people have told me that, Steve, if they try to stop me, okay, and I don't want to get stopped, I'm just going to fight them. And if they fight me, I'm going to win, and I'm going to sue them, and I'm going to own the store. Well, in Arizona, for instance, and this is Arizona Section 13-1805D, as in David, reasonable cause is a defense to a civil or criminal action against a peace officer, a merchant, or an agent or employee of the merchant for false arrest, false or unlawful imprisonment, or wrongful detention. So if they had reasonable cause to detain you, your lawsuit is gone. Don't even file it. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of paper and judicial resources. So that's Arizona. Now you might say, Steve, these Western states have these wacky concepts on concealment and stuff. And by the way, you have this weird fascination with people hiding things down their pants. It's actually a common thing, believe it or not. Every year you hear about people who are being arrested for putting crazy things down their pants. North Carolina, again, a lovely state. Been there many times. Charlotte, Hickory, one of my favorite parts of the country. North Carolina statute, section 14-72.1, concealment of merchandise in mercantile establishments. Whoever, without authority, willfully conceals the goods or merchandise of any store, not theretofore purchased by such person, while still upon the premises of such store, shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, and upon conviction shall be punished as provided in subsection E. Such goods or merchandise found concealed upon or about the person, and which have not theretofore been purchased by such person, shall be prima facie evidence of a willful concealment. And that means it's sufficient to prove it by itself. Meaning that if you didn't pay for it and you hide it, presumptively, you were stealing it. North Carolina. And in case you're curious, what about that crazy law regarding detention? Oh, North Carolina's got one too. A merchant or the merchant's agent or employee or a peace officer who detains or causes the arrest of any person shall not be held civilly liable for detention, malicious prosecution, false imprisonment, or false arrest of the person detained or arrested, where such detention is upon the premises of the store or in a reasonable proximity thereto, is in a reasonable manner for a reasonable length of time, and if in detaining or in causing the arrest of such person, the merchant or the merchant's agent or employee or the peace officer had at the time of the detention or arrest probable cause to believe that the person committed the offense created by this section. So again, everyone looks at it from their viewpoint and they go, I'm not a shoplifter. I'm not a shoplifter, so this person can't ask me this, they can't do this, they can't investigate this, they've got no rights. And as I've pointed out before, let's suppose that you went into a store and you never stole anything, you never concealed anything, you never did anything wrong. Okay? But you're walking through the store and somebody sees you walk over to the meat counter where for some odd reason, people keep stealing meat by concealing it down their pants. And while over there, you were adjusting something in front of you, but they couldn't tell what it was because your back was turned to the security camera. And then let's suppose that another customer turned and saw you doing that and honestly thought you'd stolen something. That customer goes to security and goes, hey, I just saw that guy put something down his pants. I think he's stealing meat. It's part of that meat concealment thing that's been going around. I've been hearing about it on YouTube. So they very quickly check the tapes, and sure enough, you were doing something that made it look like you're putting something down your pants. So as you're walking out of the store, they say, excuse me, sir, can we talk to you for a split second? And you're so offended by this that you take off running. You bolt out of the store. So now there's a witness who said they saw you putting stuff down your pants. That witness could be mistaken, but they did say it. They've got you on videotape doing something that could be easily construed as you putting something down your pants. And now when they asked you if they could talk to you for a second, you bolted. Now, are you going to get arrested for that? It's hard to say. Are you going to get detained for that? Hard to say. But the point is that looking at it from your viewpoint, you went over to the meat counter and adjusted your pants. And then when they asked to see your receipt or talk to you, you bolted for some reason. when you could have just as easily just said, what are you talking about? I got nothing on me. Look at me. You know, understand that the laws are written in such a way as to protect both sides here, not just you. Okay. And by the way, the Constitution doesn't protect you in this setting because it's not a government entity that's doing the search. The Constitution might be invoked if the police show up and the police get involved. But I'm talking about before that. But the point simply is this: for the people who say you cannot be stopped in the store, nor can you be arrested in the store because you haven't passed the checkout counters, you are probably wrong. Okay? I just looked at 3 states there, but these exist in many, many states. I'm not going to get into all 50 because we'd be here all day. And number 2, they're written slightly different in each state. So in your state, if you're curious about this, type in the name of your state, Michigan. Then type in the word shoplifting. Then type in the word concealment and see what pops up. You may have to play a little bit with those search terms, but you'll find it. And you're going to find that in many states, there's a statute right on point that says that you're shoplifting if you're busted concealing something inside the store. I'm not saying that all my viewers do this. I'm simply pointing out that the notion that you cannot be stopped in the store for shoplifting is by itself incorrect. So that's a nuance of the law that I thought we could all learn from. And I will assume that every person who comments below and says, but Steve, they can't stop you inside the store, I will assume you're joking. So questions or comments, put them below. Otherwise, talk to you later. Bye-bye.